Hey, good evening, everybody. I want to update you on the status where we currently sit and for the overnight hours, what we're expecting. New update, flooding risk, you see that behind me. There's still some areas that may see up to 3 inches of rain, and we're going to monitor that. So it could be a mess out there. Regardless of any overnight threat of severe weather, we are concerned about the morning commute as far as too much rain. A lot of new subscribers this week. Thanks for tuning in. Go ahead and subscribe, like, click, share. Whatever you want to do. Again, let's get into this forecast. Notice behind me, this is the instability that's going to come back around 9 o'clock tonight. And it may be a little overdone by the forecast guidance, so hopefully that's the case. Let's take a look at our threat here. We're continuing to watch another band of thunderstorms. It's moving into northwest Arkansas now, and it will track to the southeast tonight, and it will gain momentum. And there's still a lot of wind energy with this storm system that shows up in the guidance. So regardless of, instability, there's a lot of wind energy coming in. So that has us concerned for straight line wind damage. And there's still that embedded tornado risk we're going to have to watch with these storms. Again, it'll all be over by 5 o'clock in the morning. Here's our updated time frame. What I usually like to do is start with a wider time, and then as we get closer, narrow it down. I think it's 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. in red, 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. in orange, and 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. in yellow. And the Weather Service actually just came out with their graphic, and it's the same time. So there is some confidence in the timing coming in as well. Take a look at this impressive storm system. First off, what we have down to the south, there is a warm front, pretty much right in here, maybe a little farther north actually. So I'll redraw that. So that's a little bit farther north. It's just to our south. And the storms are firing on this boundary, and they're moving north away from the boundary, and they're dying. They're running into the rain-cooled air. So I think we're safe for the most part this evening. Now, as we get later tonight, this is the upper level low, and you can just see it churning out here. Near Emporia, Kansas, Lawrence, Kansas, Kansas City. And it's this upper level low that's bringing with it the energy and very strong winds above the ground, roughly 60, maybe 80 miles an hour. We're going to get into that in a second. But there is a tornado watch here in eastern Oklahoma, northwest Arkansas. Not much is filled in the middle of that, but that will likely change a little bit with time. So you kind of see what we've got going on. Once again, I'll draw that warm front in here near Memphis and just to the south. Temperatures, 90s, 100-degree readings across Mississippi this afternoon. And what's probably going to start happening, and you'll see it in the model guidance as we go through it, is as this wave out west approaches, the winds increase out of the south. And that's going to try to pull this instability back to the north overnight tonight. So kind of go back in time here with this. And I didn't quite set this up the way I wanted to, but that's kind of going back in time. I do have more guidance coming up. We'll get to that. So this is the whole low-level jet thing. And during our severe weather months, it's been every month this year, but typically what we're going to see is this really strong wind coming in, and it bows these lines of storms out, and it creates these, it's like a river. Basically, you look in, the wind's blowing at different speeds, but it's pretty much the same direction here with this. And what we're looking at is winds, once they get above, say, 50 miles an hour, it starts to make a big impact. So we'll continue on with this. It still kind of shows this area flaring up out ahead, and that we'll have to watch. I'll be here overnight. That may trigger a few thunderstorms initially, and if that happens, it may keep this really unstable air from coming back. So that's what I'm kind of hoping happens. But look how this starts coming together, moving through Memphis. By this time, by 1 o'clock this is an update, it looks like it's later. But this is the energy. By this time, we're going to know what to expect around here. This latest kind of drops it to the east and southeast. So this is new, but then it kind of turns it to the east. So notice how we're seeing these around 4 o'clock in the morning, these 74 mile per hour winds out of the northwest, again at 4,000 to 5,000 feet in the air. But that gets pulled down to the ground sometimes by these strong areas of heavy rain, and again leads to these gusty winds, and that's why you get these roughly 5-second and 10-second wind gusts that can be extreme. So that's 4 o'clock in the morning, and notice it continues to move to the east, 4:40 a.m., and then roughly by 5:25 we're still looking at some of these higher winds over here in the northeast corner of the state. So what I'm going to show you here is the latest graph, the HRRR model, I should say. So this shows the instability to the south, and I'm covered up by a logo. That's not on that, though. So notice the rain-cooled air in here. These are joules per kilogram. Anything above 1,000 is what we're going to be concerned with tonight. So we've got rain-cooled air in here. So we go forward in time. That doesn't change out very quickly. So that's 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. Notice the instability developing out here over the northwest corner of the state, over towards Hartselle, down to Coleman, and definitely Birmingham. Birmingham's observed CAPE was 6,000 joules per kilogram with their evening sounding. So they actually did a sounding out there. Notice by 11:40, it's having a hard time making it east of I-65. So with this, around 1 o'clock in the morning, it's possible there will be some weakening as this moves east, but I still think you're going to get hit pretty hard in the shoals between 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning. And the other thing, I mentioned this earlier today, is these little blue areas here. These are called helicity tracks. And that means there's enough wind shear in the air that we're going to have to worry. And that's that low-level jet coming in. And notice how it spreads out a little bit. And then we continue on. So even looking at this, the CAPE still comes up to about 1,000 in Scottsboro, 1,300 joules in Gunnersville, between 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning. So that's still going to allow these storms to have plenty of energy if that gets that far north. So here's the other concern early in the morning. All these numbers drop to 0. That means we're rain cooled, but we're saturated. There's a lot of rain out there still, so we'll watch that. This is another thing we talk about, EHI. Usually I'm never showing this in the month of August unless we have a tropical system moving in. I think these numbers are probably a little overinflated because of the high CAPE. This combines the CAPE with the instability and then the shear with that as well. So what this does is anything above 1 supports tornado potential. So there's still going to be a threat for these embedded tornadoes as this moves through. And you can see it starts falling apart, but it's still around 1 or 2 in far northeast Alabama as we go into the early morning hours. So we got to watch that. You can see it keeps raining too. As far as wind gusts go, model guidance isn't picking up a whole lot of wind, but again, just wind outside of the storms is going to be 30 to 40 miles per hour, and then the wind settles down tomorrow. So just stay weather alert tonight. I'll have another forecast tonight at 10 o'clock, but so far, so good. I know we had some wind damage out there. It's getting to be every line of storms that comes through is producing wind damage, and in some cases, it's hard to tell what was done by what storm, right? The trees are more susceptible. They're full of leaves, and the ground is saturated. So it may only take a 40, 45 mile an hour wind gust to knock some trees down. So just keep that in mind. Again, if you stayed around this long, don't forget to subscribe. I'll check in later. I'll probably have a Facebook Live later tonight too. I'll get bored, right?